Hello, welcome to Jason the Old Millennial. My name is Jason, speaking to you here in my basement in the great state of Kansas. Today we're doing a little kung fu action, and I'm doing a top 10 favorite martial arts movies. Yes, big fan of martial arts movies since I was a little kid and discovered them. And I've got some movies here, hopefully, whether you like this genre or not, hopefully some good recommends for anybody. So stay tuned to hear what my thoughts are here and what my list is on Jason the Old Millennial. All right, I hope everybody's doing well here on a late night, actually, on Saturday. And been wanting to put this, this is a list I've put together for a while. And I've got all the movies, so I can now show off all the movies, luckily. And yeah, so uh, first, before I go through my top 10, I'm going to have to admit that there's a big omit in my top 10 list. And I apologize, but I don't have any Bruce Lee movies in my top 10. And I've got this great Bruce Lee Criterion collection, all 5 movies that he did. And yeah, I first fell in love with Kung Fu movies with Bruce Lee when I was a kid. And I saw, I don't know, I probably saw like Enter the Dragon or something like that. And I was like, what is this? And I was like, I love this. What is this? And my dad told me, oh, it's Bruce Lee. And I'm like, Bruce Lee, who's that? And he's like, oh, he's the greatest, like, kung fu artist, whatever. And I was like, okay, I need to find out more about this. And I remember watching Bruce Lee movies when I was a kid, and I was just obsessed with Bruce Lee and kung fu in general. Anytime a kung fu movie would come on TV, man, I was glued to the television. I wanted to know more and more. And then, then Jackie Chan. When I discovered Jackie Chan, also as a kid, after Bruce Lee, I was just obsessed with Jackie Chan movies, and any Jackie Chan movie I'd watch on TV. Went to some movie theaters, saw what he put out when he started getting to America, started putting out some stuff in America. Yeah, I was a big Jackie Chan fan anyways. But yeah, Bruce Lee, though the movies are classics, obviously, he's the godfather of Kung Fu. I mean, he's the king of Kung Fu. I think Kung Fu doesn't get really good until late 70s. And a lot of that is just the choreography. If you watch Bruce Lee movies, Bruce Lee's great, but the choreography is not that great comparatively. I mean, it's a lot of people coming at him one at a time, and it's a little more just him just hitting one punch here, one kick. He'd knock people out with one punch or one kick. Once we get to the late 70s, we get a lot of work after we get over the whole Bruce Lee, dying and trying to come up with new stars. We got a couple of great ones with, I think, like I said, Jackie Chan, Sammo Hung, and then we got what I call the 5 deadly Venoms, which did like 6 or 7 movies together. And they all came up through the Peking Opera, whatever, a school where you learn Kung Fu as a kid, like as an 11-year-old. You learn Kung Fu until you're 18 and then you leave. But you learn how to act, how to fight, how to sing, and so they really got all these people coming out of the Peking Opera era in the 60s, 70s era, are going right into the Kung Fu movies and becoming doubles, whatever, stuntmen, sorry. They're becoming stuntmen, like Jack Chan was a stuntman first, and learning it through the movie experience that way, and becoming choreographers, and then you get some stars out of that as well. And so the fight choreography is just absolutely getting really good in the late 70s. And so that's why Bruce Lee movies aren't in there, because just the fight choreography gets really good in the late 70s into the 80s. That's where all my movies pretty much are, in the late 70s into the 80s period. Maybe some 90s. And then recently there's been some really good movies as well. But anyways, just intro it. But yeah, so let's go to my number 10. And that is Knockabout, which I just watched the other day. And I just bought this Arrow Blu-ray from Barnes & Noble's. It's one I've seen quite a bit. And it's definitely a very kung fu comedy. It's very over-the-top comedy, and sometimes they definitely go way over the top. But yeah, it's pretty funny at times. And Sammo Hung, who's right here, he's one of the biggest influences in kung fu cinema. I mean, he's right up there with the greats. He directs this movie. He directed a lot of great kung fu movies as well, but he directed the movie, he wrote the movie, and he co-stars as the beggar here. The real star is Yuen Bio, who grew up with Jackie Chan and Sammo Hung. The three of them kind of grew up together in the same Peking Opera School. And Sammo Hung Sammo Hung first came in. Of course, Sammo Hung, if you watch Enter the Dragon, he's in that with Bruce Lee. He's also in Game of Death with Bruce Lee. So he knew Bruce Lee, he was a friend of Bruce Lee's, and then he got into, into being a choreographer, director, lead stuntman, and then also got to star in some kung fu movies himself. Usually co-stars in a lot of his stuff that he directs. But he's a great director and really good because he's interesting because he's overweight. He's like the only overweight kung fu actor you're going to see, and yet he moves great for being overweight. Anyways, but Yuen Bao, he's the youngest out of the three, and he's the most acrobatic. His fight scenes are just absolutely incredible. Yeah, it's a silly movie at times, but the last fight scene is like 20 minutes long. It's a great fight scene, anyways, and there's some monkey. They do a lot of monkey kung fu, which is a lot of fun to watch. It's a little silly, but a lot of fun, anyways. But yeah, Knockabout, really, really fun movie. Number 9, I'm going with The Kid with the Golden Arm. Here, got the DVD version here. Again, Knockabout, I think, came out around 77, 78, I think. This also around 78 or so. There are like a bunch of great kung fu movies coming out around 77 to 79. Just absolutely amazing movies. And this is one of them. And this is one of the stars the Five Deadly Venoms, as I call them, because the very first movie they did together was called The Five Deadly Venoms, which is one of the most influential kung fu movies of all time. And so these 6 actors who did that movie have collaborated like 6 or 7 times together. So they made tons of movies together. They made a lot of series of movies. The main director, Cheng Che, he directs all their movies, and the fight choreography is absolutely amazing in all of them. And this is one of my favorite out of the series that they did. And this is one of the guys, and he plays the villain, the kid with the golden arm, which just means his arms are like made out of metal, so he doesn't have to wear a weapon. He can block, swords with his arms, and that's what makes him dangerous. But so many great performances. Especially love Short Axe is what the name of it. Everybody's named after the weapon that they fight with. So there's a guy who has 2 short axes, and he's called Short Axe. And there's a villain named Silver Spear, because he fights with a silver spear. And they have one of the greatest fight scenes I've ever seen. I mean, incredible skills with weapons, especially Silver Spear is just flipping his spear around his neck, his waist, his shoulders. And he's doing all kinds of really cool spins and moves with the spear. And that's a scene that really made me go, wow, this is incredible. A lot of other great fight scenes. Also, this guy, he's a hero in a lot of the movies. He's really good as well. Also very acrobatic, and he plays this government agent, and he does drunken boxing. Kind of after Jackie Chan invented drunken kung fu from the Drunken Master, this guy does it too. He does a very well job. It's a good job, anyways. And yeah, I'm not gonna go too much into the plots. I guess I don't have time, but yeah, just a really excellent. Lots of great fight scenes with weapons, especially in that one. Number 8, I'm gonna go with a more recent one, and that is The Raid Redemption, which is the first of 2 movies they made, Raid and Raid 2. And this was kind of a cult. I mean, I say it was kind of came under the radar, but then word of mouth, once people saw it, they're like, this is incredible. And it kind of got around to anybody who likes. So, of course, when I heard about it, I was like, oh, I got to watch it. I always want to watch a good martial arts movie. This is interesting. This is the main actor, Iko Uwais, is the lead, and he's been around. I've seen him in stuff here and there, but he hasn't done anything quite as good as these Raid movies have been absolutely incredible. And the director, Gareth Evans, is just kind of interesting. This guy's, I think, from Canada, and he really is into Indonesian culture. And he met Iko Uwais, and also this guy here is also incredible fighter playing Mad Dog. And I always have a hard time with his name, but Yayan Ruhan or something like that. And you've probably seen him. He was in John Wick Chapter 3, in fact. And so I see him around as well. But this is one of the first movies that really this is really the movie that really put him on the map. But Gareth Evans from Canada, and he comes up with this idea for a movie, but they don't have the budget for it. So then he makes this movie instead, and because it all takes place in one building, where the SWAT team has to go up this building, this apartment complex, to fight and the villain, the evil warlord, whatever, drug, kingpin, whatever, is on the top floor, and so they have to go up the stairs, and they're getting attacked by a lot of bad people that live in the building. So it's a simple plot and everything, but it's very intense. This is one of the most intense movies on my list. Very violent too. It's one of the most violent, most intense action movies. It kind of goes down the list a little bit for me because there's a lot of gun action in it. So I'm talking about martial arts movies. I'm talking more about the hand-to-hand fighting is what I'm more interested in than the gun. Though I like action movies with gunplay. When I'm talking about a good martial arts movie, I want to concentrate on the hand-to-hand combat part. And so it kind of goes down a little bit, but there's this amazing fight scene between Iko Voss and the actor who plays his brother. And it's a 2-on-1 fight scene against this guy, Mad Dog, who really steals the whole movie. He has 2 incredible fight scenes in it, but the 2-on-1 fight scene, and it goes on forever. And that's what's so great about these movies is in today's action, there's so much, cutting, and there's so much, quick shots and close-ups, and you can't tell the action. When you come up to a movie like this, where it's like you have long takes, and and you have a wide shot so you can see the actors, it's the actors, it's not the stunt team that's doing these incredible choreography fights, and absolutely incredible. Anyways, but yeah, it's a really good, intense action movie. I had to put it on there because a couple of those fight scenes are just really, really great. On there. So go to number 7 on my list, and this is Jackie Chan. I think my first Jackie Chan on the list so far, and it's Project A. Again, there's Sammo Hung there in the background, as you see, and Ewan Bio is also in this. So all 3 are in this movie, which I think they call them like the 3 dragons or something like that, because they're done a couple movies together that are just amazing. And yeah, it's another great action comedy. Lots of great stunt work here. It's take place in like China during like the Victorian age. So it's interesting. It's in China, but they're wearing more Western style clothing in it. And so it's a period piece, which I kind of like that. And Jackie Chan's in the Navy, and then he's forced into being in the police force and all this, and he's trying to catch a gangster. And it's a really funny movie. Sammo Hung plays like this con man, that kind of an old friend of his, and it has to deal with pirates. There's these Chinese pirates, harassing ships and stuff like that. And then there's like corruption within, I think, the government or something. And so, yeah, they're trying to fight these pirates at the end. And he's also on the run from the police because he's kind of gone rogue. All these kind of stuff come together. But there's a great scene where he's on the run, and he's doing all this great stunt work. Some of the best stunt work he's done is in this movie. Like one of the best ones is he's hanging off of a clock, which is an homage to, I think, Buster Keaton or Harold Lloyd did a movie where they're hanging off a clock. And he's hanging off a clock, and he actually falls down. And it's one of the most dangerous stunts he did in his career. And it's just a shock that he survived. But he had a big fall and fell right on his neck in one scene and survived it. But anyways, yeah, just love Jackie Chan. He's my favorite. And this is one of my favorite of his. Again, great action, great stunt work, and very funny movie. All right, so now I'm going to number 6, another older film that I just watched the other day. I got this on Arrow Blu-ray from Barnes & Noble, just like Knockabout, and it's really excited to get this. This is one that's been one of my favorites. Again, taking place like in older China, and we got Sammo Hung again, who's directing this movie. I think he did this maybe right before Knockabout. Like he did those like back to back. So I think this came out around 77 or something like that. But he directs the movie and co-stars in it, as you see, with this other actor I'm not real familiar with. But yeah, this is another just incredible story of like revenge. Of course, you always like, yeah, this guy's, these bad guys are taking over this town, or this guy murders the mayor and then takes over as mayor, and this guy knows the truth, and so the gang's after him, and he learns kung fu, and so then he has to go and get revenge against this kind of gang or whatever. And yeah, just incredible, incredible fight scenes in it with Sammo Hung. And Sammo Hung is definitely the comedic relief in here. Very silly stuff. Some of the silly stuff is maybe a little too over the top, but yeah, it's kind of what makes it fun. Is a lot of silly humor that goes into it that Simon Hung's kind of famous for in these kind of movies. But the last part, there's just this fight scene after fight scene. Like again, it's one where it's like there's a good like 20-minute montage of him training because he's training, and everything that he trains for comes together at the end because he uses everything. You see everything that he's working on, training on being a kung fu master. He then uses those training tips in the last fight. So that's kind of cool to see that being paid off. I thought was really good, and like I said, there's some good fights coming into the very end, but then there's like a little bit of a period where there's no fight scenes. It's just training and kind of setting up for the last fight scene. But then once you get to the last 20 minutes, it's just one great fight scene after another anyway. So yeah, another real classic from the 70s. All right, so we get to my top 5, and now we're going to talk about a different martial artist, and that is Tony Jaa in The Protector, which is the second movie he did. And this is a different one because he's from Thailand. So this is a bit Muay Thai, type fighting style, which is a little bit different. And Tony Jaa, he first came out in Umbok, the Muay Thai warrior, which it's not a very good movie as far as plot and acting and all that. Some of the fight scenes are pretty good in that one, but I prefer this one, the second one, over it. The plot's still a little bit silly, somewhat. I mean, it's just about him. Elephants are very sacred in Thailand, and he's like an elephant trainer, him and his dad. And some like people kidnap his pet like elephant, or that he raised since a baby or whatever, and are taken to Australia to sell on the black market. And so he travels to Australia to find his elephant. It's all about him getting his elephant, which seems like a little silly, but I mean, it's a cultural thing. But on the way, the people that are the villains are hiring, people to take him out because he's obviously a really good fighter. But yeah, some really incredible. I mean, Tony Jaa is really incredible. He has these very athletic moves that he does. He does incredible stunts as well. It's kind of like a Jackie Chan type a martial artist who does just crazy stunts, and he does crazy flips and acrobatic moves in very dangerous situations that you're like, I didn't know that's possible. Yeah, very crazy. There's a fight scene. The best fight scene is he's like staying at a temple, like a Buddhist temple, because he has nowhere to live, and they send this cabaret fighter, who's Jamaican, style fighting, and I think it's Lateef Crowder plays, who's like the best cabaret fighter out there. That does a lot of movies I've seen him in, and he's actually one of the Mandalorian doubles. He does all the fight scenes in the Mandalorian series. And anyway, so there's this fight scene between him, and the two styles are just amazing, and it's one of the best fight scenes I've ever seen. And the temple's flooded, so as they're fighting, water's like coming up, splashing in the air, so it just adds something to the atmosphere, them fighting and with a little bit of like water like into their ankles basically. And man, the cabaret is such a fun style because it's very kind of flippy and handstands and lots of really cool kicks and very unique style. And that with the Muay Thai style, like together, just was a really fun combination, and is one of the best fight scenes I've ever seen. But there's a lot of great fight scenes throughout, anyways, and to the end, anyways. But yeah, this is a really strong, best one out of Tony Jaa in that style, Muay Thai. Anyways, all right, number 4. Going with, again, one of the most classic Jackie Chan movies, a must-watch, and that is Legend of the Drunken Master, which I believe came out in America. It came out like in the early 90s, I want to say. And it's a kind of a sequel to the original Drunken Master, which came out in, like I said, 77, 78. The original Drunken Master came out, and Jackie Chan is, young, kind of rebellious student who gets taught drunken kung fu, whatever. So it's a style of kung fu that of course Jackie Chan made up, but it works so well for Jackie Chan because he's such a comedic type kung fu actor. And it's crazy to think that, and the whole idea is that you get drunk and somehow you get better, which doesn't make sense, but it's absolutely hilarious and makes for some really good kung fu. The way he has to stumble, basically, he has to stumble and do this kind of thing as he fights, and yet it just works so well. But this is even better, I think, than the original. Jackie Chan coming back, playing the same role, and I don't know what to say except what's interesting is the director of the movie, who's kind of a famous director, Liu Ka-lang. He's a famous kung fu artist. Actually, did a lot, starred in a lot of movies, directed a lot of movies. He actually has a small part in this movie, but he was the director of the movie. But him and Jackie Chan did not get along at all, and Jackie Chan didn't like his style of directing and didn't like the stuff he's doing, and so he actually took over directing in the last part of the movie. So it's actually it's directed by Liu Ka-lang, but it's actually partly directed by Jackie Chan himself. And so you'll see in the first half of the movie, and the second half of the movie is directed by Jackie Chan, so it's a little bit different. And some of the best kung fu is in the second half when I think Jackie Chan takes over. And the very last fight scene is one of the best fight scenes I've ever seen, where Jackie Chan gets super, super drunk, and he's fighting against this guy who's turns out to be really, really good kung fu. Kind of surprisingly, didn't know he's good at kung fu. Kind of comes out and starts beating up Jackie Chan, and Jackie Chan has to get like super, super drunk. And it's a really funny sequence, and the kung fu is just so incredible. Jackie Chan, one of the best. I mean, just crazy how stamina they must have when they do these scenes, because they're just doing all these incredible moves, and they probably took tons of takes to do it, and they're doing these long takes with these incredible, difficult moves. But yeah, if you want, again, one of my favorite Jackie Chan movies, a very funny movie, and some of the best kung fu. I know I'm repeating myself. I don't have too much to add except good kung fu, and it's funny. All right, number 3. This is my favorite out of the Five Deadly Venoms movies, and I call it the Crippled Avengers is kind of the original title. Though they renamed it the Return of the Five Deadly Venoms to play off of the very first Five Deadly Venoms, though it has nothing to do with the movie Five Deadly Venoms, but aka Crippled Avengers there. But anyway, so I just call it Crippled Avengers. But anyways, man, it's just an incredible movie. Again, everybody's coming back. All the main actors from all the other ones are in here, and it's a kind of interesting story of like this bad villain cripples basically 3 different guys that don't know kung fu. One he makes blind, like one he makes he gives him brain damage. One he like cuts his legs off so he doesn't have any legs, and one he makes deaf. So that's why I call it Crippled Avengers. So they each have an issue. What do you call? And so they have to then go learn kung fu and somehow use the other parts to overcome their disability. Yeah, they all have disabilities, like I was saying. And so they have to come up with ways to overcome their disability, which is an interesting idea. And then at the very end, the fight scenes they have is just some of the best I've ever seen. Incredibly choreographed. Like I said, they had that last fight scene is really worth seeing just for that, as they finally get revenge on the main villain that crippled them. And also, it's probably my favorite kung fu movies. You always have a training montage of like them, training to learn kung fu or learn to be better. And I think it's my favorite montage of people learning kung fu, because like I said, they're all like have a disability. So it's interesting seeing them how they train. And there's some very good acrobatic training montages where they're doing some incredible acrobatics, and it's just really fun. Number 2 is my favorite Jackie Chan movie, and that is Police Story, which he did a whole series of Police Story movies, at least 4 or 5, I think he did. And this is the very first one coming out in the I want to say early 80s period. And yeah, it's one of the great action movies as well. There's this scene at the beginning where they're trying to again take over this this criminal, boss, whatever, and gang leader, and they have to go down this hill, which has a bunch of like buildings, and they're going down this hill in cars and just crashing through these buildings. And they had to really do it because there's no CGI. It's all practical effects. Very dangerous stunt. That's great. And then you have him trying to chase down the villains and the criminals, and they're in a double-decker bus, and Jackie Chan takes an umbrella and he's hanging off in real life, because Jackie Chan did his own stunts, he's hanging off the double-decker bus off of the umbrella, which is a crazy stunt. But yeah, great moment, great opening scene there. And it's another one, it has a comedy, the usual Jackie Chan comedy in it. And then towards the end, it actually gets very serious. There's actually some very serious moments. And I think Jackie Chan actually does a really good job acting-wise, doing the comedy and then the more dramatic moments. And then it really comes down to the final scene, and that's why it's my favorite, is they have a fight scene in a mall. And it's very well known because they crash through so much glass. I mean, there's just lots of glass people being thrown through glass. Because if you go through a mall, there's lots of, glass display cases all over the place. And of course, windows and stuff like that. And so it's fun to watch people getting thrown through all this glass and stuff. And it's just a incredible action sequence that really ends the movie in a really cool way. But yeah, definitely Police Story, one of the best. All right, for number one, again, more recent movie, but incredible, and that is Raid 2, the sequel to Raid Redemption, like I mentioned before. Great 1-2 punch. Both are my top 10. Again, everybody comes back. Iko Voss and of course Garrett Evans directing it. And again, it's just an incredible, intense, violent movie. And there's some incredible sequences, like they're in the prison at the beginning, and they get into this huge battle in like the prison yard, and it's all muddy, and so there's mud. They're all covered with mud, and they're fighting, and it's like, I just know how it must have been very difficult to shoot. I mean, it's just crazy. But throughout, Iko Voss gets even better than the first movie. I mean, he has some incredible fight scenes, and he's very intense throughout. Good performance, I think, really. And my favorite part of this movie really is, like, I'll show these three guys, two guys and this girl are kind of like the main three henchmen of the villain, and they're all incredible. What I love is that they show all three of them in fight scenes earlier in the movie, so you see like how dangerous they are, and you see them like killing multiple people, and you're like, oh wow, they're all dangerous. And so at the very end, Iko Voss, who's he's basically like a secret agent who's trying to infiltrate this gang in Indonesia, and going undercover. Basically, he's a cop who's undercover, and he gets kind of outed, and then at the end, and he can't really know who he can trust. At the end, he goes to attack the main villains at their like warehouse that they're at. And there's a scene where he's fighting, and then he goes down this hallway, and then these two show up, and they're both incredible, dangerous by themselves, but he fights both of them in this hallway at the same time, kills both of them. It's an incredible fight scene. And then right after that, he goes through the door, and he's in the kitchen, and who's in the kitchen but this guy, like the main henchman, who's just called Assassin, I think is just his name. She's called Hammer Girl, and he's called Bat Boy, and he's called Assassin. So just really simple names to describe them. But it's the best fight scene I've ever seen is that fight scene in the kitchen with the main character and the assassin. You have to watch it. It's just incredible filmmaking. I mean, the way they started off, and they're this completely white kitchen, and they just start off as a simple hand-to-hand combat scene, and then it gets the camera as it's going on. You can tell what I love about it is the music gets louder. It's getting more intense music. The camera is starting to move more. At first, it's just stayed on them, but then as the fight goes, they're moving around the kitchen more. The camera's moving around. I mean, I love the way the camera moves in this movie. That's what makes it so, I think, incredible. Raid and Raid 2, just the camera work is just really, really good. And the way they move around the scene. And then one guy pulls out these knives, and then all of a sudden they start cutting each other. And so they start bleeding. And then so all of a sudden there's blood all over this white kitchen. And it's just a really great, visually. And so the scene gets more deadly and more intense as they're bleeding, and they're trying to go for kill shots with their knives. And yeah, it ends very violently, but it's just a great buildup, and it's just intense. And yeah, it's just the best scene like I've ever seen in a kung fu movie, or not kung fu, but martial arts movie. And that's enough, I should say. Watch this movie just for those 2 fight scenes. I mean, they're the best I've ever seen anyways. Back to back, just incredible fight scenes. I've never seen in any other movie in my life. But yeah, definitely, if you like action movies, like martial arts movies, you have to watch Raid 2. That's just incredible. Anyway, so that's my top 10 favorite martial arts movies. Again, it might not be in the genre, but if you ever want to check it out, those are 10 movies you can watch. Like I said, obviously Bruce Lee, like I said, a lot of stuff there. I don't really have time to talk about honorable mentions, but Jackie Chan has tons of great movies that I could spout off. He has so many great ones. But anyway, so that's my list for you to comment. What do you think? What is your favorite martial arts movies? Do you have some favorites? What do you think about the ones I put out? Have you seen any of them? Are any of them good? I'd love to read your comments and appreciate it. And just thank you for everybody watching this video. Thank you for liking it. And just thank you to all my subscribers for supporting the channel. I appreciate you all, and I hope you have a good day.